The Mission Series. Book 1. By Evelyn Carr, with suggestions by Lily Judge. Based on the original idea by Evelyn Carr, Jack Daly, and Lily Judge. Dedicated to the friends who were always there to support me. Chapter 1. After 2 plane trips, hours of crying children and a meal I'm pretty sure was cardboard, I had finally made it to the GAFIS. Clutching the backpack strap on my shoulder, I boldly walked in through the front doors. A few agents busy at work glanced at me before going back to their work, almost completely uninterested. I held back an appreciative whistle as I inspected the neatly polished interior of the building. It had been quite the journey from my small hometown to New York. I had to convince my mother I was taking an educational trip to New York for my advanced ed program, which was, in fact, the agency. The mission was supposedly of utmost importance. They had flown me across the country, after all, and called for only a select few agents. Apparently, I was one of those agents. I neared a gray desk near the front, where sitting in an equally bland chair sat a man in a faded gray suit. He raised a brow as he glanced down at me. "Do you have an ID card with you?" "Yes, here you go," I stated, pulling out my ID from my pocket. The man plugged the card into a reader, and once the information had loaded on the screen, barely scanned it over with his eyes. "You're 16? "Yeah. Almost 17. I replied. The man gave a dubious look as he punched some numbers into the computer. I was used to these looks by now. Being only 5 feet even, I was often misjudged. This had some downfalls, but I was able to act as someone younger than myself. Which, of course, meant I still got free candy at hair salons. "Wait over there," the man instructed, pointing to a wall. I obeyed, my Converse squeaking as I did. I looked around, semi-embarrassed. Fortunately, no one seemed to notice. No one seemed to even notice my presence, I mused. It seemed they were all in their own little world. At least back in my old office, people had a personality. As I pondered, I took note of a girl who walked over and stood next to me. Being a full 4 inches taller than myself, I had to look up to inspect her. She had long, curly brown hair that was complemented with her icy blue eyes. Her outfit consisted of gray leggings and a colorful striped dress, and to finish the look, some black boots and fingerless gloves. She smiled, as if she knew something nobody else did. Not wanting to stare at her for no reason, I greeted. "Hey." The girl turned and looked at me, as if just noticing my presence. She opened her mouth to reply before noticing another presence enter the room. I almost didn't see him enter, he was so quiet. But he stood up straight in his dark blue polo, and if I hadn't known better, I'd say he was in for an interview. His green eyes glanced at us expectantly. "Well, hello to both of you," the girl chimed. The boy nodded in reply. Silence filled the room. I pursed my lips. If we couldn't even start up a conversation, how were we going to work in a mission together? I thought there was supposed to be one more person. The female agent acknowledged. As she talked, I could notice a slight British accent. I replied. "Yeah, maybe she decided not to come." "Can we even continue this mission with only 3 people?" the girl questioned. "Indeed. Even so, I expect the other agent to arrive shortly." We unanimously nearly jumped out of our socks as we turned to face the man next to me. The first thing I noticed was the overwhelming cologne smell. The second thing, his cookie-cutter appearance. "You sort of sneaked up on us," I remarked. "I apologize. I suppose I like to keep things a surprise." He added extra emphasis on his last 2 words, but when met by our blank stares, cleared his throat and straightened his red tie. "Are you the head agent in charge of the mission?" I inquired. "Do we need some sort of testing?" the girl next to me questioned. "One question at a time, if you will. Before I go on any farther, I'll give you the mission's purpose." "If you could do so, sir," the male agent piped. Well, this is a mission of utmost importance. We have reason to believe a certain man has hired the break organization to plan an attack on our building. He paused, letting this sink in before pulling out a manila folder from his jacket. Inside I have enclosed several suspects, as well as information regarding the break company. Now, you may wait here until the next agent arrives. He handed over the manila folder to the girl next to me before starting to walk off. Do we need some sort of training? The man continued to walk off, leaving her question unanswered. I muttered. Did he just abandon us? The female agent exclaimed. Rude. He's sure fond of leaving questions unanswered. I voiced. There was a pause before I broke the silence. Well, while we're waiting, I suppose we should introduce ourselves? Okay. The two agents said simultaneously. We are, after all, going to be working together. There was another pause. Good grief. Why is this so awkward? The female agent questioned, a grin on her face. Good question. I replied. Well, before we go back to silence, I'm Agent Carmen, 16 years of age, well, 17 in 2 months. But still 16, despite my height. I'm from Elko, Nevada. The two other agents nodded in acknowledgement. Well, I'm Agent. The girl paused, as if contemplating Agent Fox. I'm 17. I came here from one of the smaller bases in London. Well, that explains the accent. I thought. Oh. And I'm Agent Jack, I'm also 17. I came from South Texas. A while from here. I nodded. Well, at least I knew their names and ages now. So. I guess we wait for the next agent? I have a bad feeling our next mission is going to be wardrobe. I glanced to see what she was looking at. A showcase in a wall a few feet away held 4 dark blue suits, the letters Gap plastered on the right side of the chest. I frowned. I hoped these tight-looking suits wouldn't be what we were wearing. After staring at the suits a few more seconds, our attention turned to the woman who had just approached us. She smiled cheerily as she introduced herself. Hello, I am Cynthia, your training assistant. Come with me to get started. I nodded. Robot Lady, I nicknamed her. She looked like one, with her smooth skin and equally smooth hair tied up behind her. Okay. Agent Fox stated. Do you happen to know who the first man was? The woman led us over to the case and opened the door before taking out the suits. My face was a mix of sadness and horror. Wear these. And yes, that is the man in charge of this mission as well as this entire base. With her overzealous smile, she directed us down the hallway and toward a room labeled Gym. After opening the door, we were greeted with a flow of dust. Agent Fox looked as if she were being attacked by a million bugs, and were led into the room. Inside the room were some lonely-looking punching bags, mats, and a mini arena in the center. The walls were a bland gray, and a single streak of sunlight came in through the one window. It was somewhat depressing. Wait here until I return. Cynthia instructed, and without another word, she walked off. Wait. Agent Jack called after her. When no response came, he sighed. She's gone. They never give us any explanation of what is happening, do they? And they never answer our questions, it's frustrating. Agent Fox added, clearly unhappy. I nodded in agreement. And I asked if she knew him. Agent Fox continued. Not if she knew what he did. Sorry, but the people at my base were a whole lot nicer. I glanced at the outfit in my hand. Yeah, you and me both. Well, I suppose we need to put on these outfits. I replied, a tone of unhappiness in my voice. Yeah. Agent Jack responded in an equally low tone. I glanced around the room before spotting the bathrooms, and before I changed my mind, walked inside. Here goes nothing. Tilda. A few minutes later, we all came out with frowns. I think I'm going to hurl. You think they'd at least choose some loose, comfortable clothing for training? Agent Fox paused to adjust her sleeve. "This suit is so tight. I think they're trying to kill us." "Yeah," Jack replied. I didn't say anything, simply pulling on places that didn't quite fit. It didn't help that I was short. They had to improvise by getting a smaller size to fit me vertically. As we were contemplating our, literally, tight situation, we saw Cynthia come back, her high heels clicking against the concrete floor. "Now, this is just a skills assessment, considering you've already had extensive training." Agent Fox and Agent Jack in the ring. Agent Jack looked at Lily questioningly, while I questioned. "What about me?" "You will wait. In the meantime, I want you to watch them carefully." I stared at the woman, semi-vexed. So staring at people was going to be my training? I hadn't spent countless hours on self-defense just for this. "Are you sure, ma'am?" I questioned. Ignoring me, Cynthia motioned Agent Jack and Agent Fox into the ring. Who did this woman think she was? For being an agent, she was quite rude. I was starting to dislike this space. "So much fun. Not." I could hear Agent Fox mutter under her breath as she entered the ring. Jack was looking quite unhappy, and he stared at Lily with a raised brow. "All right, in positions," the woman instructed. Agent Fox's expression changed to a taunting glare at Jack, who seemed almost scared of her. "Okay," Agent Jack muttered, studying Agent Fox as he came up with a plan. I wasn't sure what exactly this test was going to prove. After all, us agents had already gone through so many tests. Another one wasn't really going to change the results. I considered. Maybe the actual fighting wasn't the test, but how we'd react to it. That doesn't make sense, I thought. Now, just as Agent Fox was about to deliver a first blow, much to the horror of Jack, Cynthia was interrupted by a man who entered the room briskly and headed toward Cynthia. Once he reached her, he instructed. "Stop." Jack looked gratefully relieved before glancing at the man expectantly. "I have something to discuss with Cynthia." Cynthia sneezed, and swiftly the man provided a tissue from his coat pocket. Cynthia gingerly thanked him before bringing the tissue to her face and sneezing once. We all stood awkwardly for a few seconds, but what happened next threw us off guard. In what seemed like a matter of seconds, Cynthia slumped to the ground, unconscious, and the man next to her threw a round object toward us. Opening his hand, he revealed a pin, a grin on his face. "Grenade!" Jack shouted, diving for cover.